Within every single one of us,
Okay.
there are approximately 3.16 billion base pairs. Within every single one
I
of
gotta
us,
start it up.
there are approximately 3.16 billion base pairs of DNA, which contain not only our genetic information, but also hold our deepest biological secrets, including the darkest, most twisted ones. At least, that's the case according to a few studies,
Darkest, most
which have
twisted.
apparently found evidence that not so long ago, much of the known world
What the
was
hell?
rife in violent, bloody conflict that was so brutal that its ramifications have
I've been
lasted.
thinking about that, bro. We've been like at war consistently, like 24/7. Like, is there ever a down period? Like, I think we live in Warhammer, bro. There's never a time where we are not at war or just fighting each other or doing whatever. Like, for why? What purpose? I mean, I guess war has always been like, oh, you need like resources or you need this or you need whatever, you know. How did I record? Make sure. Oh yeah, what
Until
the hell? I
today.
was just record.
It is
What?
suggesting that a lot of people died or disappeared relatively quickly. Now, anything that heavily impacts the population could have been considered an answer to this mysterious die-off. Yet what was so odd is that the bottleneck was only really seen in Y chromosome diversity, which is unique to males and passed on from father to son.
What?
While in the mitochondrial DNA, which is passed down through females, researchers found no matching drop in diversity. In other words, something had happened
Bruh.
which clearly affected a lot of men, but not nearly as many women, leading to the researchers' idea that unprecedented violence may have had
I
been the
mean,
explanation.
like, yeah, because, like, historically, dudes were the one, like, always fighting and stuff, right? Like, you even saw the dudes in the beginning. They were just all dudes, and they were hitting themselves in the head with, like, a baton, or, like, a bat, or, like, a club. Why are those called clubs anyway? Like, club, you go to, like, a club to dance and stuff, you know? You don't hit each other with a club. Why do they call those sticks clubs? Why aren't they called, like, round sticks that hurt, you know?
Because,
I'm just
if the
saying.
perpetrator was a volcanic eruption, severe weather, or some other form of Mother Nature, you'd expect the drop in genetic diversity to be more or less equal between genders, not just in one. And really, a drop is not the best word to describe what happened to the men, as a more appropriate word would be decimated, with the scientists estimating that this event was so horrific that by the time it subsided, the effective male population in Africa, Europe, Asia, and the
What
Middle
was it?
East had been reduced by up to 95%, meaning that
Because, like, oh no, because that would have just been North America. If you remember the last two videos, or like the first video we reacted to by the Hastocrat, bro, like, didn't a nuclear, um, like, not bomb, like, asteroid and stuff, like, it hit North America and killed everyone. But, like, what? Do you think people were just fighting, bro? Oh, prehistoric war. Never mind. Bro, they had wars back then. What would you even need a war about? Like, like bugs or something? Like, oh, you guys have more turtles than us or whatever, or more rocks. Like, they didn't even have money back then, you know what I'm talking about? Like, that's like, bro, people just be fighting for no reason. And well, be careful, that's what I be saying. Because, like, when you go to a gas station, bro, you have like tweakers fighting over like, oh, you stole the last lighter or something, like, or like you accidentally like took a breath in my direction or something. Bro, don't throw your way or life away for like whatever, bro. If you're gonna crash out, do it in like a confined room and like I don't know, throw a tomato at a wall or something, Make the wall red with like a tomato, not like the blood of your enemies or something. That's what this was, like a prehistoric crash out. People got mad over like rocks or something and they just started killing each other. That's unreal. Have this be like a some sort of warning or something, like an omen.
theoretically, only 1 in 20 men survived this
Stop doing
purge,
that dirt.
with women possibly outnumbering men 17 to 1. No
What?
conflict in recorded history
What?
comes even close to the
Bruh. To be a dude during this time must have been so good. Like you would have just like you would have gotten like all the chicks, bruh, and like the chicks would have been on you. You'd have been like drinking that prehistoric beer and like eating beans from a can, or like eating bread or something, playing with rocks, and there's like a bunch of girls around you and stuff. But if you're a dude who likes dudes, like I don't know, maybe it's different, but maybe you wouldn't like it too much because there's not dudes or something. But like, was that even a thing back then? Because I knew a gay dude one time. His name's Alfred, and he was chill. He was a security guard at like a parking garage. He took the night shift. I remember he told us he just didn't want to work that much, that much. You really don't get anything in the night. You think that during the nighttime, that's where the criminals are and stuff. But like Batman deals with them and stuff, and there's like superheroes in real life that just be like dealing with people in the nighttime, I think. So like as a security guard, you really don't have much to worry about, in my opinion, like during the nighttime. So that's like a good hustle. Like if you're gonna hustle, do something during the night. Sleep during the day, especially because like bro, whatever goes on during the day over here, like people just be dying anyways. Like there's no prehistoric war or something. Like the entire like police trucks and fire trucks and police and like fire and EMT and stuff. They're like always going out and people are just crashing and just dying and stuff. Really watch out. Just like honestly just stay indoors, bro. If you're gonna do something, stay indoors. And if you're gonna do something you know, outside, wear knee guards, wear like elbow pads and wrist pads and stuff.
This kind of lethality by a percentage. Not even World War I or World War II. And if you wanted to
Dang.
recreate such a brutal conflict today, then there'd have to be a loss.
What? And they didn't even have like weapons of mass destruction back then either. Like, what was they had dinosaurs back then too, right? So, do you think they had the dinosaurs like throw giant rocks, like cross-continental rocks and stuff, and like just kill a bunch of like Chinese dudes or whatever? Like, oh, I would have hated it living back then, bruh. Because you had no TV, you had like no flip phones, you had like barely even good drink. They had like 0.2% like beer and stuff. I don't know if the Chinese people discovered Zaza yet or that Ma, you know? It's like you wouldn't even like what did you do for fun? Throwing rocks around or something? Which is pretty fun, I'll be honest. Like you ever been to a creek, run a rock at, like a tree trunk that's just like hanging there and it's like hanging by one root and you're chucking rocks for hours at it, trying to get it down to fall down. That's like fun. That's pretty fun. If they did that all day, like I get it. Actually, never mind. Like that's pretty entertaining, I'd say. But like they didn't even have like ice cream back then or something. So I don't know how much fun you can really be having back in the prehistoric times, especially with the dinosaurs and stuff. So
Of approximately 3.9 billion men, leaving only about 200 million standing.
what?
Naturally, when someone claims that our DNA is proof that a terrible conflict happened, you'd expect to find at least a couple of bodies lying around that we could point to as hard evidence. And as it turns out, there are lots and lots and lots of
Oh
them.
my
In
god.
fact, it's actually hard to miss them, and we discovered well over 250
Are
late
they just like
Neolithic
laying
dated
there?
sites where violent deaths have occurred, and that's just in Europe alone. And even in general, Neolithic humans are notorious for being found in grim conditions, and containing unparalleled amounts of
Bro,
bodily
this guy
harm,
keeps leaving his
especially
iron
when compared
arrows.
to
He doesn't pick
earlier
them
or
up.
later humans.
I'll take
With
him.
one analysis of more than 2,300 early farmers, finding that over 10% of the men and women displayed injuries reflecting weapons, likely from raiding
Damn.
parties or competition that attacked for their crops and livestock. Another analysis
Bro,
of
people were
338
mean.
individuals.
Like, they really just be killing people and stuff because, like, they have more stuff in them. Like, people are, like, mad salty for no reason, by the way. Really take care of yourself and who's around you and stuff because you have these hating people that will just jump you and like kill you with a club or something or like chuck a rock at your head while you're chilling, you know, like crafting stuff or doing whatever, you used to do back in the day. Really be careful. But like that only applies no, that applies to now. If you're prehistoric right now, like listen to my advice. But like just generally, like this is pretty good advice, I think. I'm not sure though.
In Spain, found that 23% showed signs of aggressive damage, with adult and adolescent males especially being heavily impacted, making up 97% of
Dang.
the unhealed individuals and 81% of those that showed healed trauma, suggesting that it was very common to experience more than one violent encounter in a lifetime. And obviously these numbers are pretty darn high, but they're not the 95% inferred in the study. Yet research points out that in many cases, violent attacks don't actually
What the
leave
hell?
marks in the bones, with only 15% of fatal melee attacks with sharp weapons leaving any sort of bone lesions behind. And you also have to take into account infection.
You know, I was about to say about infections because, like, I guess you could look at the body and be like, oh, this dude got stabbed, or like he got his skull caved in and crushed or something, or whatever, this and that. Um, but I was thinking, what if, what if like 30% of these people were just people who fell from trees, you know? Because, like, you know, it's fun to climb a tree and stuff. And, like, those trees were probably high. Like, they were probably, like, up, you know? They were, like, the trees were up high. So if you fell down from a tree, you could live. But if you got, like, maybe, like, a branch stuck in you or something, and you took it out, it'll just get infected, right? That's what I'll be thinking. What if, like, the majority of these people just get infected, and it looks like they died from, like, a crazy fall or something, but they just cracked their skull and then they like lived somehow, and the infection is what killed them, you know? More to think about, really.
Disease,
Stay safe while climbing trees.
and other indirect modes of death that are associated with conflict. Now, obviously, these weren't the first people to be found murdered by their own, but their frequency was no doubt extreme. And scientists noted two things that became exceptionally common during this period: battles and indiscriminate massacres, with
What,
multiple
like
sites
genocide?
of brutality being known of. One of the most gruesome is the Talheim death pit located in Germany, which is dated to about 5000 BC. Here, scientists unearthed the remains of at least 34 individuals who had been brutally slain. And what's crazy is that none of the skeletons bore any kind of defensive injuries, which implies that
What?
they were fleeing and not fighting the attacking party.
No
And across the
way.
board, the killing blows could all
People
be
were
placed in just
evil.
three categories: those that were made by a sharp side of an adze-like tool, those by the blunt side, and finally, the ones killed by arrows, which only accounted for 3 of the 34 victims. Analysis on the
What?
skulls also showed that warriors back then often aimed for the head, with all but 4 of the skeletons having lethal cranial injuries, sometimes on top of already deadly wounds.
What? Bro, so people been aiming for headshots since before video games were even like a thing, right? What? No, that's insane, bro. Like, bro, that's insane. Like, do you think a lot of these were like children too? Like, they were just killing kids or like women and stuff? Oh no, because I guess it was like, I guess they were killing not women because mainly the dudes were the one who dying, right? But like, definitely kids, like definitely like teenagers or like children or something, because like otherwise, like the 97% of dudes just be dying and stuff, like, wouldn't be a thing unless they were
And among
killing
the
kids.
dead, 16 had been children, 9 of them adult men,
Yeah,
and 7 being older
what?
females, while younger women were
I'm too
noticeably
smart.
absent, a popular theme amongst Neolithic massacre sites, suggesting that they were viewed as valuable and likely as a trophy, being
Oh
kidnapped by
hell
the victors.
nah.
This particular attack took place within a settlement that
Bro, we used
possessed
to be
fortifications,
freaky.
like palisades, which only further proves that back then, there was a strong need to wall yourself off from other humans. And sure enough, other massacre sites that took place in settlements also had fortifications, like the Massacre of Schlitz, which likely took place in 5000 BC as well, occurring not so far away in Austria.
What?
And this one was far deadlier,
So they were just
with
going
200
on.
victims being known of
But
that were
how?
carelessly dumped in a mass grave
Like, why were people
after a
doing
raid
this
on a
during the
settlement.
same time? You
Like
think it was like a
Talheim,
virus?
there was again a noticeable lack of dead women, and lots of dead men. But this slaughter did differ in some ways.
Is that how it happened?
First off, on top of presumably kidnapping adult women, they also might have captured pre-teens and young teenagers, as they
What?
too were noticeably few among the dead. And another grim difference was that in this attack, many of the dead were found without their arms and legs, while severed skulls were located separately,
Oh, they
evidence of
chopped them.
potential
You think
torture
they ate
and
them?
human dismemberment. This could have also been a tradition for the attacking party, and showcased that different combatants had varying rituals.
I was about to say that. Like, a lot of this can seem cruel, like retrospectively and stuff. but it could just be, uh, the norms of whatever ritualistic practices they used to do back in the day. It's like obviously not good or cool or anything, but like the whole point of looking at this from an anthropologic like standpoint of view or whatever is like kind of got to be respectful of it, or rather look at it as what it is rather than what you think it should be. But that's like interesting. Well, obviously that's like very horrific. It's like not justifiable and stuff. But that's like crazy, the I guess the norms of their practices of war that they used to, do back in the day. That's interesting.
For example, in Asia, headhunting was particularly common.
Wow.
And another poignant
They were
case
like
that further
predators,
demonstrates
like the
this
Yacha.
happens to be the largest known prehistoric mass grave, Herxheim, in Germany, and it occurred between
Or
5300
they got
and 4950
German places
BC.
just got Heim
But
after it.
instead of a ravaged settlement, archaeologists actually believe they found a community that were the ravagers, having created at least 80 pits right outside their 15-acre large village that were essentially filled to the brim with victims, which so far
But
is estimated
why?
to have exceeded 1,000 individuals, possibly
They
up to
just did it for fun?
1,500, and
They were like, oh,
ranged
we
in
could kill
age
people?
from newborns to elders. And if we
What?
account for the
Newborns?
population difference
Bruh.
between then and now, it would almost be like a city building a mass grave with over 800,000 corpses right outside their city walls.
No.
And nearly each one was processed in a similar way, with the native population dismembering and breaking bones while also cleaving their skulls
Breaking
down the
Bad?
middle. In fact, so many skulls were cut and seemingly defleshed that researchers reckon that this community were skull cultists that used the heads in some ritual, and most
Oh.
likely ate pieces of them as well, with the brain being an especially prized part considering its fatty content. There are also signs that the tongues were often removed from the dead and that the bones were crushed for easy marrow extraction.
What
And
the
to sprinkle
hell?
just a bit more
They were
queasiness
eating
into
them!
this,
I told you!
scientists further realized that there were less spongy bone elements than there should have been, and that certain bones, like the metapodials and hand phalanges, showed preferential biting. In other words, these guys had their favorite parts of the body to munch on. Plus, many of the
Bruh.
bodies were cooked, with
What?
some even showing signs of
And that'd
having
be
been spit
true.
roasted.
Like, you know how people be eating like steak or something and it's fatty, or they love biting specifically like the fatty parts because you're like, oh, it's so juicy and stuff and things like that. You think that's how cannibals view us and things? Bro, that's crazy. I'd like, I never had the heart to ask a cannibal, you know, what is human meat like? What does eating it feel like? What's the experience? Because I felt like if I asked them that, I'd probably be like breakfast, lunch, and dinner for them for at least a few days. I'm not like the leanest or anything, but I'd like to think that maybe I would offer a pretty tasty meal to a cannibal or something. But the idea of eating another human is like very disturbing, I'll be honest. Like, even as a prehistoric person, like, do they consistently do this, or was it just like random dudes, They were just like, oh, let's just do it for fun. Like, it's just a funny activity to do or something. Because, like, I don't think they were all doing it. Like, it had to have been even pretty taboo back in the times. Like, even, I guess, comparably to now and stuff.
Then, when it was all said and done, bones were processed into cups,
Oh,
other
hell no,
items were
bro.
turned into decorations, as some were found near or on spikes, where the entrance of the settlement was situated. Suffice to say, this
Bro,
was
that's
just
like
about the
some
worst
Vlad the
group you
Impaler
could get
stuff.
caught by. But avoiding them might have been harder than you would think, because despite the lack of transportation back then, they still managed to wage war on a large scale, with many of their victims having come from vastly different cultures, some of which were only found 300 miles or 482 kilometers away. The
Dang.
dead also ranged in lifestyle,
They really
with
just
some
went
having
out to do
isotopes
that.
demonstrating that they were hunter-gatherers, while others had been farmers. And then you also had
So,
victims that came from up in the
what,
mountains.
what was this prehistoric, or was this um like the Neo-Paleolithic era, or is it like the post, like the pottery Paleolithic, or is it before that? Because like I remember we saw the video. I forgot the eras, but oh no, because farming to some extent. No, no, this had to have been like after um the quote unquote ice age ended, even though we're still in it, but like once the good weather started coming in and stuff. But like, was that then? Because like that's true at that time, the the civilizations or the tribes or the whoever, they were like still nomadic. Oh no, it had to have been after, because only after that, especially like near the Levant or maybe like the Mesopotamia areas and stuff like that, they started having like bigger cities and stuff. So this had to have been sometime like what, like 15,000 BC or something. Is that considered prehistoric? Because like that's when they started farming. That's when farming started like becoming mainstream and not niche, you know? So like there's no way these communities were eating people while being hunter gatherers, nomadic, having cities, and having an agricultural approach to it, maybe seasonally or something. Like the timeline seems kind of unclear here.
Mountains and those from the lowlands, which all points to the idea that Herxheim's natives were horrifically bloodthirsty people who managed to carry out
Damn.
successful raids that required not only tactics, but a certain level of logistics. And not to mention that while their settlement was large by a Neolithic standard, it was still significantly smaller than 1,000. And when I say 1,000, I mean less than 50 people.
No.
So impressive, in a very dark way. That being said,
Why were you
there are
talking
still
about
some
cities
mysteries
with
regarding this
dead
place.
bodies?
Like who exactly were the dead? Captives of war? Slaves? Or were some just unlucky travelers that got too close?
Are they just
Also,
walking?
no one is really
Got
sure what
jumped?
happened to the natives of Herxheim, with some tests suggesting that the settlement was abandoned soon after the massacres took place, with a maximum settlement time of 50 years following the burials, leading people to wonder if another group came seeking retribution. So
Dang.
obviously, it's hard to argue
Yeah.
against Herxheim as being the
So like maybe some of their like friends were walking through, the forest, like as one does, you'd be walking and stuff. Because I'll be honest, I'll be walking by the forest and like going by the creek sometimes on the occasion, or like on a camp or something. Do you think the people were just like on a stroll, frolicking through the prehistoric times and stuff, and then they just got eaten, and like their homies were like, "Hey, bro, that's not even cool." So they pulled up to get their get back and stuff. What the hell? Ah, this demon, man. Fine, whatever. I'll do push-ups. I'll do push-ups. I'll do what I need to do. I need to do.
most gruesome sight we know of. But such weird, specific brutality was not isolated
Oh
to
my
just
God.
this case, and many more instances are known of. Warriors that collected heads, you've got it. Groups that systematically broke and removed shins, yep, there was that too.
What?
Xenophobic groups that hunted down and mutilated newcomers, boom, done. And then finally, you even had fighters that buried people alive, because apparently that was a thing as well.
What?
In addition to a
Alive?
diverse range of brutality,
Nah.
there was also a lot of diversity when it came to the weapons.
Being buried alive, bro? Are you serious? I'd be so scared. Like I'd be like, bro, I'm alive, and I'm under the dirt, like buried, and there's like bugs in here and stuff. Bro, I'd be so scared. That'd be so scary, bro.
Themselves, and many kinds of blunt and sharp weapons were used in battles, such as adzes, spears, bows and arrows, axes, clubs, knives, scrapers, sickle and hoes,
What?
hammers, and the list goes on.
Bro, they got hosed.
And unfortunately
back in
for
the day
combatants, the level of armor back then did not match the innovativeness of their weapons, with no standard protection being known of. And fighters likely didn't wear much besides animal skin, woven cloth, and plant material.
They didn't have armor,
This all
so
made
this had to
living
have been
exceptionally difficult for
before
anyone,
the good weather.
but especially for men capable of fighting. And simply growing up was an accomplishment, with a level of violence resulting in a measly lifespan of between 20 and 33 years old, and thus
Dang.
tying it for
That's like
first place
medieval
for the
age
time when
times.
modern
I mean,
humans
we've been
died the
living like
youngest.
that long.
And this
for a
is even
while.
accounting for infant mortality,
It's like
as even if
very
you made it to
recently
say
that we have
15, you'd still be expected to not
we
make
had
it past
longer lives
33.
and stuff.
And so with all this nightmare fuel considered, it really just leads to one simple question, which is, what the hell was going on?
Yeah.
Why was everyone seemingly in a non-stop fight with everyone else? And sadly, there isn't one single clear answer to this,
Bruh.
but there are a few different ideas. And ironically, one of the top hypotheses pins it off
being
as humans
clickbaited?
flying too close to the sun. To be exact, not so long before the violence kicked off, humanity entered the Neolithic Revolution, also known as the first agricultural revolution.
Yeah. So okay. So
This period
Neolithic.
in
Yeah.
history saw many human cultures transition from hunter-gatherers to settlers and farmers. This allowed for a boost in population and the ability to establish full-fledged settlements, which in turn led to progress in other areas as well.
But wasn't this? Weren't they doing this because, like, they low-key got bored and they're like, "Yo, what if we just stayed here and ate a bunch of food?" Because they were just like, "Oh, and this is also when they had that good beer and stuff, or not good beer. It's like 0.2%, you know. But, like, this is when it started appearing. So, like, do you think these people were just like drunk AF or pretending to be drunk for the clout? They're like taking a sip. They're like, they're like, bruh, I'm so burnt. I'm so burnt. So they just went out and started killing people. Like, bruh, people really be killing people for clout. Like since the beginning of time, bruh. If you see this, bro, people do it all the time, bruh. People be killing people and like bragging about it on like Facebook or like Snapchat or something, you know. And like, how is this any different? They're doing the exact same things, you know, things, and they're just killing people, chopping their limbs up, and like eating them up for clout, pretty much, because they're just pretending to be drunk. They're like, guys, I'm so gassed up, and then they'll use that as a defense in prison or like for the jury or something. They'll be like, "Oh, jury, I'm so drunk, bruh. What are you talking about drunk, bruh? You literally have 0.2% beer. Like, you would have to drink like 50 million of those to even be burnt, bruh. I bet it was the kids who were getting more burnt off that than like the adults. Like, they probably thought it was a juice that made them feel funny. You know what I mean? Damn, bruh. We've been killing for clout since like the BCs, bruh.
This sounds great on paper, but this success also meant that humans could now better organize large battle-worthy groups,
That's
courtesy
true,
of
because
said
their cities were
settlements,
bigger.
and had access to a wider range of weapons than ever before. Additionally, this shift provided humans with new reasons to kill that didn't really exist beforehand, as they now knew that settlements and farms equaled guaranteed loot, food, and women all in one place. Furthermore, by proximity alone, settlements might have been viewed as hostile by others, and potentially as existential threats, leading to the
Damn.
notion that all neighbors were bad news and had to go.
That's
Another
like,
more specific idea that tried
that's low-key like the Empire. Do you think that, because if I had to guess, unless it's retconned, the Emperor of Mankind was created by like 9 shamans, right? Was this during the Neolithic era? Because like if it was, that would make sense. The Imperium of Man, although like very heavily inspired by like Roman ideology, I think, or is it the Greek? I have no idea, bro. I'd be forgetting. Cause I just be thinking about Robot Gulliman and stuff. But like their views towards other alien races are not only shaped by both, you know, the contemporary state of the universe, like everyone's trying to kill each other and like do whatever and be mean because it's 40K and stuff. But like, you think that also has to do with the fact that the 9 souls of those shamans was during this time period, and they inherently viewed the existence of other civilizations within their own world as a threat to their own growth, even though maybe like it was inherently untrue, but like they just saw it as like an ideological threat to them, especially because like all of them like had different ideologies, I guess. It seems like I feel like no one ideology like be supporting like cannibalism and stuff. It's all like different ritualistic practices. But I'm just rambling, bro. But you know what I be meaning, I think.
tries to answer how the Y chromosome in particular was so obliterated beyond just the
True.
violence,
Why
states
dudes,
that as the
bro?
revolution was
All because dudes be
underway,
fighting.
societal structures reorganized, with more and more people forming patrilineal kin groups. Perhaps because trust was a rare commodity and it was easier to rely on those you were related to. And this resulted in unrestricted movement for women, but very much restricted for men. In other words, no outsiders allowed if you were a guy. This would have made the Y
Oh.
chromosome very vulnerable, and explains why it was so affected when these clans waged war against one another, and ultimately leading to the genetic bottleneck being very much one-sided. But like many ideas, there are those that disagree with this hypothesis, and instead actually propose a peaceful explanation to this. Now, obviously, as the abundance of skeletons show, violence was quite
It was
prevalent
not
at the
peaceful.
time. But, in terms of the genetic bottleneck, one team of scientists thinks that patrilineal clans may have split up often through a peaceful process called lineal fission. Since these new clans were made up of closely related males, their Y chromosome lineages became more vulnerable to disappearing over time, especially due to environmental hardships. This led to a gradual drop in Y chromosome diversity, as some male lineages were very successful in surviving and others slowly faded away. This was only further compounded by reproductive fitness, where some groups were much more successful, which led to more growing and splitting, only reinforcing their dominance, while others just couldn't keep up and eventually vanished. Of course, there is that.
Let me fix my camera. For my camera has locked-in syndrome. It's like, it's inside of itself. You know what, we're just going to continue.
Then the possibility that actually both of these ideas were on the right track, with peaceful and violent factors having worked together to bring the effective male population way down.
Damn.
Whatever the case, there's certainly no denying that something happened. And to this day, the legacy of this bottleneck remains, with certain populations still not being at the same diversity as pre-bottleneck levels. And if this had never happened, it's fair to say that things would be quite different. Still, our genetics overall have mostly recovered, and we don't kill everyone else on sight. So at least there's that improvement. Though it does lead to a second question, which is, how did all this potential bloodshed end? Well, it didn't, at least not in an absolute sense. Because over time, from a pure numbers point, more people did end up dying in wars, especially thanks to new technology. It just so happens that we grew faster than we died. So things got relatively better. Then sometime later, as more complex societies were created and trade and diplomacy arose, things cooled off. However, when you look at the last 600 years, you can see that this cooling off was only very recently, as it was only in the last 100 or so that we really started to turn a new leaf, with the amount of conflicts starting each year being on a mostly downward spiral since World War II. And while it may be hard to believe these days, we do live in an extremely peaceful world compared to the one that used to be. And this is of course reflected in our very long lifespans, which is over 3 times that of the Neolithic ones.
But isn't that like,
and while
is that correlation even like necessarily true? I don't see why that necessarily has anything to do with the fact that we're like, oh, we're warring less or something, because we inherently, like, I mean, to an extent, definitely are. I mean, like, to an extent, we definitely are warring less than we once did, but doesn't it have to do a lot more with technological advances than anything, really? That's just what I feel. Like, you know, I could be wrong and stuff, but um I really don't see why that has anything to do with, you know, whatever, or specifically correlated to that. But
we certainly do have our very own problems, I, for one, am glad I don't have to worry about skull cults and shin takers anymore, at least for the most part. Thanks for watching, and until next time on ExtinctZoo.
Bro, that's a scary... No. Okay, whatever. We'll figure that out in the next video. But as for now, that's interesting. I mean, to be fair, I don't know how much I liked that video.
Humans are
in the first place. Stupid. Because, bro, he didn't really answer the question, did he? He didn't really be like, oh, humans are like this because, or like this specifically happened because. He just gave a bunch of reasons, which is fine, because I guess a lot of this is just speculation in the first place. It's like, can't really go back in time and get like an accurate account of what was happening. But as far as the video goes, like, I don't think it's the guy's fault. Like, the guy made a great video. I just think the topic in and of itself, I hate it when there's like super interesting topics that we can just never get an answer to. And whenever someone covers the topic, it's mostly like they give a bunch of reasons as to why it could have happened, and it really leaves you with that itch. You're like, I want to know what happened, you know? But you can just really speculate. I guess it's just like a lot of these topics and stuff. It's gonna be like this. So, well, I hope you guys liked the video. As far as my camera goes, it's like, oh, what the hell? What? Okay, well, at least now I know how to fix the camera. Okay. You guys like the video? Like the video? Tell me if you want to see more of this. Like I said in the last reaction video, if you guys want to see me react to like Nope, I think specifically because I was reacting to like the Key and Peele stuff. But any movie really. I used to make movie reviews, believe it or not. Um I, I used to get really technical about it, but you know, right now just doing whatever, bro. If you guys want to see that, maybe even like a deep dive into a movie or any sort of media, just let me know, bro. I'm down to do that. As far as everything else goes, have a great day. Cool guy out.